What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of The Curious Cat. If you're new to the channel, please hit subscribe on the button below, hit like on the video, share it with some friends and family. It helps me get the information out there. And I've started something new. I started uploading the audio from these videos, and I'm going to start putting it into a podcast version. So if you prefer audio over the video, it'll be available on most of the podcasting apps as well. So with that being said, I'm going to get right into it. Today's video, I'm going to be speaking a little bit about Bitcoin, why I think it's so important that all of us start learning about this technology. I've really been obsessed about the technology for the last 4 years, even though I heard about it probably 9 years ago now. But it was really the last 4 years that I became obsessed with it. And one of the main reasons I became obsessed with it is because with all of the research I had done, the main issue I came to find that was kind of at the root of a lot of our problems was the centrally controlled currency that is at the foundation of our capitalist system. Actually, we don't have capitalism, but at the heart of the very foundation of our current system that we use to go through our day-to-day lives and to trade our goods and services amongst each other. So Bitcoin, in my opinion, offers a major solution over all these issues that come along with the centrally controlled fiat regime where governments decide basically the economic policy, monetary policy of these currencies that affect all of us. So as they decide to manipulate interest rates, or they decide to print more of the currency, it's basically devaluing the currency that we're all working so hard for. So essentially, it is a theft of private property, it's a theft of our wealth, and it's one of the main reasons why there's so much economic disparity in today's world. So that's why I'm so passionate about Bitcoin. I know a lot of people don't really get why I talk about it so much and why I think it's so important, but I just think it's kind of this anomaly that a lot of people are overlooking, where they think, oh, it's just some investment get rich quick scheme. But in fact, what it is, it's something that has the potential to foster major change in our world and to help create more prosperity, more diverse prosperity, that's our more wealth distribution across our communities. So to me, that is a fundamental property of Bitcoin that is very empowering for all of us. And what it has the potential to do is take these powers away from the government that are essentially robbing our wealth, and it has the potential to restore our money system, which is the foundation of our prosperity and our freedoms and our innovation and all of that. So if we're able to restore a money and create a hard money once again, then we're able to create prosperity for more of the masses. And that's very critical. And it's a way in which we can operate, we can perform trade amongst ourselves, and where we can have a more honest system where there's no way for a centralized group or entity to come in and essentially counterfeit the money and come in and buy up all the assets. So essentially they're stealing our wealth and our prosperity, and Bitcoin fixes that. So it's a very beautiful thing, and I think that we should all be learning about it and starting to buy it and hold it, because this is the best shot we have at liberating ourselves and creating more prosperity and freedom and innovation in our communities and in our societies. So that to me is a beautiful thing. And when we can have a currency that essentially has a economic tightening, where basically it's always increasing in value and asset prices are always going down in terms of our savings, that is a beautiful thing. We're all used to inflation, where prices are always getting more and more expensive and getting pushed further and further out of reach from us, because these governments and the centralized banking cartel essentially just counterfeit the money, give it to themselves, come in and buy up all the assets, where you and I obviously have to work very hard to acquire this money. And then most of us aren't informed enough to know better, so we're actually holding this money in cash in these government denominated currencies, and then they're debasing it through inflation and money creation. So essentially we're losing the buying power of our capital that we've traded our most valuable asset, which is time, for. So when you learn about money and how they're using it to basically take our wealth and to keep us stuck in poverty, and to always be pushing asset prices further and further away from us, out of our reach, then you can learn why it's so important that we have a hard money, and that we have a money that maintains its value throughout time, and that it can't be stolen, it can't be counterfeit, and that it's an equal playing field where anyone who wants that currency has to put in an equal amount of work or goods and services for that currency. So right now it's clearly not an equal playing field, where we're seeing how they can just come in and print the money out of thin air, and we know that they obviously give it to themselves before anyone else, and then all of us at the bottom, we kind of get the last whatever's left of the scraps, and they give it to us in the form of debt. So to me, Bitcoin offers a solution to this, where we can restore hard money. We can basically have a savings technology. So this is actually something that I want to clarify. A lot of people believe that Bitcoin is trying to replace cash. So they think that it needs to be, a lot of people are of the argument that, it needs to be a payment system. And the more I've learned about Bitcoin, I think the community has come to the consensus that it's not going to be cash. It's essentially digital gold. So it's acting as a primary store of value. So it's not something that you want to spend every day. It's not something you want to be able to use at the retail store, because it's inherently, by its design, it's always going to be going up in value. So why? No one wants to spend it. No one wants to be buying coffee and paying transaction fees and spending their Bitcoin when they know in a year or two it's going to be worth that much more. So primarily what this technology is a savings technology. And the reason why it's so powerful as a savings technology is because it's absolutely scarce. And we've never had anything in this world that is absolutely scarce before. The closest thing we've had is gold, and that has a very limited supply. And that's why gold has acted, it's been the best store of value over time. Over thousands and thousands of years, it's been the best store of value. And essentially all of these government currencies that they start out having tremendous value, but in the long run, they all basically enter hyperinflation, and they revert to their intrinsic value, which is zero, because they really have no intrinsic value. There's no cost of production. They essentially just come in and create it out of thin air. And so if people are willing to give up real assets like their homes, their businesses, their gold, their silver, whatever, even their Bitcoin, for these currencies that the government can just come and create out of thin air, well, of course, the governments are going to use that to their advantage, and they're going to print the currency and buy up real assets with it. So in a sense, the general public is being duped. And I think moving forward, more and more people will start waking up to this as they begin to see the rising cost of living and the rising cost of assets, especially with the amount of money the governments are printing for the most recent economic crisis to do with COVID. And basically, it's my opinion that this crisis had not very much to do with COVID. I think most of it was already due to happen. COVID just ended up being the pin that popped the bubble. And but basically what we're seeing is this major economic crisis, and so we're seeing governments come in and create all this money to try and essentially paper over the crisis, and now they're giving it away. They're giving away money, which, helicopter money. They're out of ammunition per se, so they're getting so desperate that now they're actually just giving the currency away. And you don't give anything away that has true value, so this is a last ditch effort on their part, the Keynesian economists that believe that we can just print our way through the crisis, and they think that they can just give away the currency. But essentially, this will come to bite us in the long run, because as they give away the currency, and it's no longer hard to earn or hard to create or hard to acquire more of, then the people that have the real assets begin to ask for more and more of the currency. So this is why you're going to see a rampant rise in prices moving forward because of all of the currency creation. And now we have something like Bitcoin that's absolutely scarce. So as we have these governments that have monetary policies where they're going to print the currency into oblivion, where there's an infinite amount of currency creation, it's no big deal to get more of. It's infinite in supply. So why would you want to hold your savings in that when we know they're debasing the currency? And people that are holding the bulk of their wealth in dollars are realizing the pitfalls of this. They're seeing how they're barely able to keep up to the cost of living now. They're seeing how the cost of assets are getting pushed out of their reach. And the smart people that understand what's going on with finance and with money, they don't keep their primary holdings or primary savings in cash. They buy assets, so they park their capital in real estate or in businesses, or they buy gold or silver or something like that that's limited in supply and that will appreciate with the inflation. So now, with the invention of Bitcoin and it being absolutely scarce, it's kind of the exact opposite of the government monetary policy of printing forever, infinite amount of dollars. So if we look at the best fiat currency to date that has the best track record, it is the British pound. It's been around for 317 years, and it has already lost 99.5% of its value. And the US dollar isn't too far behind it. And we're approaching, in 2021, we hit the 50-year mark of a 100% fiat currency system where it isn't backed by anything. We are completely on the perceived value of these somewhat paper currencies, but most of it's just digital currency now, and not to be confused with Bitcoin's digital currency. There's a big difference between the two, and you will see in the future the governments are going to try and dupe you into using their central bank digital currencies. That's a new term that's coming out. You're going to see more and more of it, and they're going to try and dupe you into using their currencies and under the guise that they're safe and regulated. But the problem with this is that it's, again, centrally controlled. We know that, again, they're going to manipulate it for their own benefit. Their monetary policy is going to be an infinite supply. Again, they can create the currency whenever they want and debase it and essentially steal our wealth. So it's my opinion that moving forward, it's a no-brainer that more and more people are going to go to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin will continue to appreciate in value as it's absolutely scarce in its supply. And as all these other governments print their currencies into oblivion, and basically the value of these currencies continues to debase, more and more people will be looking to get out of these currencies, and more people are going to come over to Bitcoin Island. And basically, Bitcoin is the solution, in my opinion, because it's 100% transparent, it's audited It's publicly audited, so anyone can go on and look at every transaction. It's completely verifiable, so you don't need any third party to verify that it's legit, that you're actually receiving real Bitcoin, that it wasn't counterfeit, that the transaction was legit. We know how much Bitcoin is being created, so you know that it's not being debased. And essentially, it restores honesty and trust into our financial system. And without, or sorry, I should rephrase that, because it's not centrally controlled, and we're not at the mercy of these financial planners um, varying the value of our currency, then basically it becomes really stable because they're not varying the supply. We know the supply. So if you know supply and demand, if demand increases and supply isn't going up, then there's only one way for the value to go, and that's up. So essentially, this is why Bitcoin it has the best economic policy or financial um, policy. And so essentially, moving forward, it's pretty hard for any government to compete with this. I think they're all scrambling at the moment, trying to figure out how they're going to continue to dupe the general public into using their currencies and allowing these centralized banking cartels and government thugs to continue to steal our wealth. And I think moving forward, the times are changing. People are waking up. More and more truth is getting out there. You've probably been paying attention recently to the amount of deplatforming going on. So they're really ramping up their effort to hide the truth and to bury anyone with a narrative counter to their own. They don't want you realizing the truth. They don't want you thinking outside the box. They want everyone buying into the narrative that they're trying to feed us. And essentially, it's my opinion that technology is what is going to liberate us. So I think that through decentralization, basically, it's going to be very hard for them to keep a hold on this. I don't think they're going to be able to stop Bitcoin because it's essentially its own entity now, and it's not centralized. So there's no centralized point of attack. They can't just go in and attack a specific country. It's its own entity. Bitcoin Island is its own entity, and no one knows how to get there. So there's no way for them to attack it. And essentially, it's an international entity that anyone can own and anyone can be a part of, that has the best monetary policy in the world and is absolutely scarce in supply, which will, in my opinion, cause it to increase exponentially in value in these dollar terms as these dollars get printed into oblivion. So I think that is the power of Bitcoin, and I think more and more people will be waking up to it as more and more people look for solutions, as they see their dollars just lose their purchasing power, and they see asset prices get pushed further and further out of their reach, and they see the people holding Bitcoin, basically they see their wealth and their purchasing power increasing. And it's going to be the human greed that's inherent in all of us that will actually push people over into Bitcoin. They'll want a piece of that pie. And what's interesting about Bitcoin is that inherent greed that's inside all of us for once has the potential to do something good, where it's the greed inside of us that will bring a lot of us over to Bitcoin, chasing these huge gains. But in the end, it's actually going to be a beautiful thing, because it's going to restore truth and honesty and hard money, and put hard money at the foundation of our system, and offer them the truest form of free market capitalism we've ever seen, which has all kinds of potential for us as a society and as communities. So I think it's very exciting times. I think all of us should be buying and holding Bitcoin. And it's not of my opinion that we should be spending it. I think it's teaching us all to have lower time preference, in the sense that instead of just earning money and spending it right away on useless crap, we can learn to save our money because it's going to be worth more in the future. So it teaches us to really look at the value of things and to have patience and to essentially forego pleasures in the present moment for the potential of more gains or more buying power or more pleasures in the future. So that to me is a powerful thing on its own. And I think that it's really going to help us as a whole to embrace this technology, to embrace a lower time preference, to we're all going to want to start to earn capital when we know that it's only going up in value and it's going to have more purchasing power moving forward. So to me, that's a lot of economic incentive to, bring better products or services to market when I know that I can use that capital to put it into a savings technology that's going to increase with time its purchasing power. It's going to afford me more things in the future, or more embodied energy in the future, where I can have a nicer house, a nicer car, or more purchasing power to, better my business, or whatever I might decide to do with that capital. So I'm going to cut it at that. That was a pretty long video, and it didn't really come out that smooth. I'm not feeling like I'm speaking that smoothly today, feeling a little off, but I hope you guys get what I'm laying down. I'll do another video here in the future, and hopefully it comes out a little smoother. A bit of an off day. We're just entering, the colder days here in Canada, and it's it's kind of throwing me off a little bit. Just really wet and cold outside here, and a few personal things going on. But yeah, anyways, I did my best to get this video out, so I hope you guys don't mind that it's not as fluid as some of my past videos. But with that being said, I'm going to leave it at that, and I hope you guys are doing well wherever you are, and we'll see you in the next video or podcast, however you're consuming this content. Thank you guys so much for checking it out. Have a great day.